Hello and welcome to episode 215 of First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and with me, as always, the hoot and howl herself, Shanine. How are you doing today?
Be good.
And back in California, Emma, how are you?
Yay, I am no longer in another state. I have been in 3 different states this week.
I really enjoyed all the pictures you posted.
Oh, yes. Pirate boats and everything.
And from Big Sky Country, Chris Nicolay, how are you?
Or Treasure State, whichever.
You know, why not both?
We got too many names.
This week, we are adding phase 3 of the MCU to our MCU tier list. You'll see phases 1 and 2 on the screen. And so, yeah, we'll be going through that this week, adding to it, growing it, arguing with ourselves. I was saying before the cast, I feel like this is going to be the cast that we disagree with the most and drives a huge wedge between all of our friendships. So here we are. Before we get into tearing this apart from the inside, you can find us on our social media as OneGeek411 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can join our Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Watch us live Monday nights at 6:45 Mountain Time on twitch.tv/OneGeek411 and check out our YouTube where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, help us with that algorithm. Then you can also go and check out our Redbubble store. Getting into a very quick what we have been up to because we got a lot of movies to discuss. Shanine, what have you been up to this past week?
All right, not a whole lot, but we did finish the Chimera Ant arc in Hunter x Hunter and have started the final arc. The resolution of the Chimera Ant arc was excellent. It was good. It just, they lost me in the beginning. So I didn't enjoy the ending as much as I wanted to. But with this new arc, they have brought me right back in. My favorite character's back. We're good to go.
Gotta believe.
It's good. It's good so far. It is dark and twisted, and I love it.
Emma, what have you been up to?
Let's see. This week, aside from / a part of being on vacation with my family, I've been watching The Sandman, which came out, and I am so pleased. It does the comic books every bit of justice, and they hit all of the most beautiful bits perfectly, and the cast is great. Great selection of cast. They've got a good mix of known and unknown actors, which is fabulous. The guy who's playing Dream is killing it. Just great casting choices and everything, and just the visuals. I keep dying over the visuals because there's like so many cool things that they're doing that are so cool. And yeah, I just keep enjoying that. So everyone go watch The Sandman.
Chris, what about you?
That's about the only nerdy thing I've done this past week is watch Sandman.
And what do you think?
It's fine.
I expect that coming from Chris.
No, it's great. They did a great job. I think the audio drama just has a special place in my heart, so nothing quite stands up to that. But they did a great job, and yeah, excited to see what more they do.
Then for me, biggest thing I've been up to is playing more Tales of Arise. And I got to tell you, it's still melodrama and it's still like the most over the top, like JRPG in all the best ways. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's, I'm trying to think of the best way to say things because like it's all like compliments, but like so many of the characters and so much of like the situation that it's going on is just like the most absurd. Yeah, I don't know what all I can say without getting into spoilers, but there's like fruit that turns you into energy. There's like all these weird monsters, stuff like that going on. Yeah, it's I'm on a boat right now, so like there's that.
Are you going fast?
It's kind of unclear. And so like we're
Do you have your
chasing
swim
someone.
trunks and your
So like
floppies?
I would presume we're going fast, but they're just kind of like there's this giant ocean here we've never talked about before. So here we are. So
Are you
yeah, that's what I have been up to.
flipping burgers, and I'm at Go Straight flipping copies?
Yep. You know. So chat, let us know what you have been up to, both in chat, in the comments, and over on our Discord. So let's jump into it, as well as recapping the previous tier list, or the way the tier list currently stands. And so at the top, we have S tier, which are our amazing films, things that we think everyone should watch. Right now, we have Iron Man, Avengers, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Then we have our A's, which are greats, something that most people should see. And that is Captain America, the First Avenger, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, which got robbed, and Ant-Man. Then in B tier, we have good films, things that have some ups and some downs, where we have Iron Man 2, the original Thor, and Avengers Age of Ultron. And then the most confusing tier for me, which is C, which is meh, it was a film. We have Hulk, Iron Man 3, and Thor the Dark World that are somehow all not D's, but here we are. And
I mean, Hulk should be a D, but some people are way too nice to Marvel movies. No,
Just wait.
Just wait. So
wait.
as we get going, the way that it works is we will all have an opportunity to share and talk about what the film meant to us, what we think about it, and then give it our ranking. We will average those together, using the word average very loosely. And then that is where it will land on the tier list. Everybody has a veto that they are allowed to use to either move a movie up or down a tier after the rankings are locked in. You can veto someone's veto. And if things go really crazy tonight, I could see us having 3 vetoes on certain films. So we'll just kind of see what happens.
I will veto your veto. No one vetoing your veto to the veto.
Yeah. Again, I really think that this is going to be the phase that tears us apart, just like what happened to the Avengers in the first film of Phase 3, which is Captain America: Civil War, where we pick back up with Steve Rogers, who's now leading a different team of the Avengers from Age of Ultron. And so we have a moment where Scarlet Witch blows up a building, people get upset, and then we also find out that Bucky's back, and plot twist, he murdered Tony's parents. And so we get a fight around the Sokovian Accords, along with this personal conflict between Tony and Steve. So, Emma, we're going to start with you. What do you think?
So interesting to me, because it's a Captain America movie, but it feels more like an Avengers movie to me. Because there's so many people involved, and it doesn't focus on Captain America in the way that title movies have in the past. So it's very interesting to me, and I've always debated a little bit over it, but it's not a terrible movie, that being said, all things considered, but that doesn't mean it's not great either. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it sits at like a B for me.
Okay. The way you were going with that, I was like, oh man.
Long story short, it's a B.
I was like, we're gonna have beef this phase. Okay, Chris, what do you think of Captain America: Civil War?
I'll agree with a B rating. It escalates very quick.
Yeah.
But there's so many great things that happen in this. But then again, it all happens right at the end. So I mean, like, as a movie as a whole, it kind of misses some points. I agree with a lot of character development just to happen all in one movie, though, was rough to me, for the most part. Still great. Lots of, like, it's a Marvel film. Hits all those Marvel notes, but yeah, it's a solid B.
A solid B? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, last week I gave Shanine a little tease of my tier list. And here we are, I guess, as me, the contrarian. Civil War is straight S tier for me. I love this movie. I love that it's basically Avengers 2.5. I really wish that we got to see more of these separate teams. I think that that's something that would have been very cool had we been in the Disney Plus era at this time period. Like, I think it would have been really cool to get a 6-episode Team Cap series and then a 6-episode Team Iron Man series. But yeah, I love this. I love that it isn't just a Captain America film. And that honestly, this is the type of movie that you could show to somebody without the title and they would just think it was Avengers.
They should just rename it Civil War. They should have ratted that. Just take
Yeah.
out Captain America from it.
Yeah. I was also full on and still am full on Team Iron Man in this scenario. So
And then as Zim
this
plays
case, I'm
and chat
actually-
points out, we also get the introduction of both Spider-Man and Black Panther in this film.
Right.
And so
And that's those are the parts I'm talking about. Like, it's not like that happened so early on or anything. It's just
Janine, what do you got?
All right. I'm like having a bit of a hard time placing this one because I have not seen it as much as I've seen other ones. But as we said, first introduction of Spidey. If I'm remembering correctly, we also have some good Scarlet Witch and Viz moments.
Mhm.
So, and yeah, it's basically an Avengers movie, but against each other, which is interesting and not something that we really had before. So this is an A for me.
I'm shook by all of this. Okay,
so.
before
Like,
I correct,
don't forget, like, our S tier. You said it's what we believe. Just go to watch. I don't think Civil War is that for me yet.
no,
That's my primary reason.
it's not a go-to watch for me either.
Does not make my list of these are the Marvel movies you have to watch if you've never watched any.
our next film is indeed a Marvel movie, and that is Doctor Strange. We get the introduction of yet another rich white guy with superpowers coming into the MCU. And we get very cool special effects. We get the Ancient One introduced as well, and kind of an introduction to the more mystical side of the MCU. Chris, what do you think of Doctor Strange?
So, don't get me wrong. I love this movie. But as Cameron mentioned, it's another rich white guy. And also, there's a few other things that are problematic about this film. Particularly, again, dealing with whiteness. So, it is a great film, and because I love Doctor Strange, but all in all, there's just so many problematic things. It ends up at a B for me.
So for me, Doctor Strange is a high C. It is a film that honestly I didn't like that much the first time I saw it. Not in the sense that it made me angry like Iron Man 3, but it just seems fine. It's the introduction to another character. I think there's a very fair criticism for this one that a lot of Doctor Strange's arc is just Iron Man repeated. I feel like this has amazing visuals. It's probably one of the most interesting looking MCU movies from an effects perspective, but to me that doesn't carry it. And so, yeah, it's a high C. Janine, please be S tier. I'm ready.
I'm like, everyone's sassing Doctor Strange so much. I love Benedict Cumberbatch, so it's very exciting having him join the MCU.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. It's just
I also love Tilda Swinton, and it was exciting getting to see her. And I don't know, it was a little different, more magic-y, which was interesting having that in a main character. And I basically defeated the big bad by annoying the heck out of him, which is a little funny.
Come on, Will, I've come to bargain.
it feels like a D&D.
It's very much a D&D move.
Which I do think, like, props to that, because I really like the idea that there are actually big bads out that are so big that you can't just fight your way through them. I do think that that's one of the things that Doctor Strange establishes well, is that you do actually have to think to be a hero. Looking at you, Tony.
And it's an unconventional way of encountering that.
And, you know, we get the introduction of the MVP himself, Wong, as well.
It's true.
So, I mean, I enjoy this one. It's an A for me.
Hey, Emma.
I agree with everything that's been said, but it's definitely not when I, to myself, say, I want to watch a Marvel movie. It's not one of the first ones that comes to mind. It was an okay movie. I was very excited for Benedict Cumberbatch because I am a super Who-Locked fan. Admittedly, I had my Tumblr phase, spent a lot of time watching Sherlock and Doctor Who, and not so much Supernatural until college, but that's another story. Anyway, big fan, but it was okay. I liked the addition of magic into the MCU. This hits at a B. I don't really feel like it's a must see, but it's like higher up on that list than some of the other movies that come to mind.
Okay. We're going to hard pivot from Doctor Strange to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, From Magic to Space. And so we get Awesome Mixtape number 2 as the Guardians continue to explore space. We get the introduction of Ego as Peter's dad, and chaos and shenanigans ensue. And so for me, this is an A for me. I think this is a low A. I don't think as a whole movie it hits that great. I'm not a huge fan of some of the later stuff with Ego, like the very CGI fight at the end. And so, but yeah, overall, I do really like this. I like the comedy of it. And it's always awesome to have the Guardians. Again, we talked about this last phase, but man, like shout out to like James Gunn and the Guardians team. Like all of y'all rock. So yeah, A for me. Janine, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Guardians. They're hilarious. We get a special appearance from Mary Poppins, which is great. But yeah, the Ego stuff was not that great for me. I think this is a B.
Emma.
So we're hovering.
It did a good job of carrying on the humor of the first one. But I honestly don't remember much about it if beyond it was funny and it had what's his face in it, whoever played Hugo or Ego or whatever his name is. So it definitely sits at a B, like the low B for me, leading into C. I honestly don't remember a lot about it. So B.
And Chris?
for me, the thing about this phase, because like they do, like, every movie has a thing that I'm attached to. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2, again, great soundtrack, always nailing that with the Guardians lineups. Yeah, like you guys said, the opportunities when we just have the Guardians together, so much fun. Especially with the introduction of Mantis. There's so many great moments, but yeah, the villain, that the twist, I guess, I don't. It's a B for me. Watch a highlight reel. That's what it comes down to. Listen to the soundtrack and watch a highlight reel. It's not one you have to go out. And also, there's still some bitterness with this movie because of the after credit scenes.
So you never got Adam Warlock?
Yeah, we still don't have an Adam Warlock. So it loses points very quickly. But yeah. So B, yeah.
From space, we then return to Earth, to New York City for the mild-mannered Peter Parker, who's doing all the things that a spider can. He is swinging around. He is fighting the Vulture, and kind of apprenticing under Tony Stark. Shanine, what do you think of this?
I mean, it's Spider-Man. You can't go wrong with Spider-Man. I mean, Tom Holland's is probably just the best Spider-Man that we have had.
I would agree.
On screen. He's amazing. Zendaya as MJ is great. His friend, whose name is escaping me, is
Ned.
Hilarious. Ned, fantastic.
Also, bonus points, he's Filipino, so just throwing it out there. The automatic for me, but
yeah, I don't know. It's great. It was great Spider-Man happenings, high school, and supervillains. It's like a very high A.
Emma, what do you think?
Admittedly, I don't remember a single thing that happened in this movie.
I feel like this is the reveal that Emma has never seen a Marvel movie. Like, she's just been like faking us through this whole time.
I
and it's fine.
legitimately do not remember a single thing that happened in Homecoming.
So recap of Homecoming. They're doing the
please.
It's Homecoming.
Yeah. So in terms of the superhero aspect is someone's dad is scavenging alien parts and comes the Vulture. And
I know
Peter's
I saw
really
it,
just
but...
navigating high school and trying to deal with that in the background. But that's what.
I'm gonna put it at a B. I know I saw it, but I don't remember much about it.
Someone could probably recap a little better than that. That's what I remember.
Hey, Chris, what do you think?
Automatic S tier. Ned is Filipino.
Represent. We called it earlier.
What it does is it sets Ned up so well too. Like Tom is great. MJ is great. But like the way they bring Ned in and the way they carry Ned through the rest of Spider-Man in context is so good. So I'll agree with Nate here actually. I don't think this one is quite S. This is one of the ones where I will ultimately probably put one of the later Spider-Mans at S tier, but yeah. Homecoming, strong A. Finally bringing in some representation. It's great. And perfect representation.
So for me, similar to Shanine, this is a high A. And I love the Peter Parker side of the story. Like any classic Spider-Man story, it has to both be a good Peter Parker story and be a good Spider-Man story. And I love I really love the scene where Tom and Michael Keaton are in the car, and Keaton's character Vulture figures out that Tom is Spider-Man. And I just love that scene. I love the tension in that like that's going on between them.
Right.
Okay. All of that is like fantastic. I also really like Vulture as a villain. Like I really like the tie-in here of like we're starting the I think I'm going to say starting. We're starting the trend of villains that Tony Stark has wronged. And I really like this idea that like Tony Stark swooped in, like Keaton's company had this job and it got taken from him, and then he starts to take the tech and be a Vulture and start taking stuff. And I love that how they tie that in with his actual character development. It's just so good. Like I said, I love so much about this. I love that it's not an origin story. That obviously we're getting introduced to Peter, but we don't see him just like hanging out doing like getting bit. And so I really like this. So yeah, high A tier from me. Earlier on, we had magic. Then we had space. And now we have space magic.
Space magic.
Because we are going to Asgard in Thor Ragnarok. And so we get the introduction of Hela, and ultimately leads to Ragnarok with Asgard being destroyed. We also, of course, get all of the stuff on Shakar, where we get Jeff Goldblum's character, and we get to see Gladiator Hulk and all of that kind of stuff. And of course, the introduction of Valkyrie into the MCU. Emma, what do you think?
Talk about a redemption story. Coming off the back of 2, Taika came in and cleaned up all the messes and went beyond. I am biased because I am a big Thor person, so this absolutely killed it. I definitely go to Ragnarok as a must-see. This one for me hits at high A, low S tier because it really made Thor unique and set him apart.
I'm gonna need you to pick one.
So
we're gonna need you to pick an S.
No, S tier. I'm gonna stick it in S tier because I love it so much, and it's so good. I know people are gonna disagree with me on that, but that's where I stand. It's at S tier, and I love it so much. It's so good. That's where it goes. That's where it lives in my heart.
Chris.
Ragnarok is S tier. I'm sorry. Taika is just
genius.
The best. No, there's so many great things. Like not even just like considering the past Thor movies as like a redemption piece. It just fits so well. So many good humor moments that allude to a lot of past events. We get the brother team up for a little bit.
We have to do Get Help. I'm not doing Get Help.
We get some good Hulk moments. He's a friend from work. I have no problems with this movie whatsoever. And not only that, we even got a little revival because of this movie. Got a little revival of Men in Black.
Yeah.
You know, too many good things came from this movie. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok S tier for me.
For me, this is S tier. This is the bar that I hold all the other like solo movies up to. I love Thor Ragnarok. It is my favorite like individual character MCU movie, and so I love everything about this. I love the humor, as Emma said. I love the redemption of Thor that we get in terms of being this like kind of stoic character into just like the zany over the topness that we have in Thor Ragnarok. And I really like how that has kind of carried through for him. And of course, we get a cool juxtaposition over in Endgame. But yeah, I really like this again. This is so awesome. And I love getting the Are You God of Hammers? And then, yeah, there's so much cool stuff here.
Sounds
We
like you
get
had a pretty
Korg.
intimate relationship.
We get Korg.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's a circle. But not a regular circle, a freaky circle. I love it so much.
Janine, what do you think?
Hey, this is a tough one for me just because I've only seen this one once.
What?
Not for any reason, just by like crazy random happenstance. I don't know. I've never rewatched it, so I don't remember it all that clearly. I know I love Taika. I know I love Kate Blanchett.
She did a really good job as Hela too.
I'll just concur with the majority and say S tier.
The correct answer. That then brings us over to Wakanda, where we get Black Panther. With Chadwick's depiction of the character. We get the appearance of Warmonger as well, as they fight over the philosophical difference of should Wakanda be open to the outside world. And so, Chris, what do you think?
So, Black Panther, all in all, great movie. I don't think. Sorry, what was the villain's name again? You just said
Killmonger.
Killmonger. I don't think Killmonger was a compelling villain that everyone made him out to be. But all in all, this is also essentially a juxtaposition of the two civil rights movements of Martin Luther King versus the Black Panther.
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X, yeah.
Yeah.
So I really like the themes. It was really good. So and also like so many great supporting characters around Black Panther that we got introduced to and got to see. So I'm gonna say this is a strong A for me.
Black Panther is S tier for me. I love so much about this movie. I very much disagree. I love Killmonger as a villain. I love his motivations. The way that you describe him is how I feel about a future villain that we get in Phase 4. But I love that the battle between Black Panther and Killmonger is just as much philosophical as it is physical. And that in the end, while we do have Killmonger die, which makes me very sad, he does win to an extent because Wakanda does go and change their ways. And so I think that it's a very interesting movie in that regard. So, Shanine.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I love the relationship between T'Challa and Shuri. Probably the highlight of the movie for me. Just quippy siblings. I always love that. and we get Martin Freeman just bringing Sherlock back in to the MCU once more. We love it.
One character at a time.
And I mean, Chadwick Boseman is great. Why wouldn't you watch it? It's, again, a very high A for me.
Emma, have you watched this one?
Yes. I have definitely watched this one, and it definitely sticks out. It's a very strong A. It's almost S tier, but it sits at an A for similar reasons that Chris mentioned. Killmonger didn't like there was such a great relationship between T'Challa and Killmonger, but it wasn't quite enough, in my opinion. But I also did like the resolution, like you said, Cameron, in that the whole sort of battle and like them changing their ways. But I kind of wanted a bit more of a challenge. I also, when I rewatched this, I don't know why this stuck out in my mind, but when I rewatched it with my mom, I made the connection that the guy in Age of Ultron who got his arm cut off is the same guy that shows up in this, who has the, no arm. And I was so blown away because I was like, Mom, it's the same guy. It's the same guy from Ultron who got his arm cut off. Anyway, strong A for everything that's been said.
Okay. Next, we get our first Avengers movie of this phase with Avengers Infinity War. We start to gather the team together for this showdown against Thanos. As Thanos has begun to gather the Infinity Stones, he attacks the Asgardian ship and starts to take over, fights Thor, Loki, and Hulk, and actually kills Loki. Rip. He'll be back in his own show later on, so
yeah,
he's fine.
Don't worry, guys.
And so, and then they take the fight throughout space, and in order to start to gather the stones and fight off Thanos. And so, I don't think there's anything else I wanted to call out there. Oh, at the end, we get a huge fight at Wakanda around the borders of the country. I think the country, at least the borders of the city. And so, yeah. What did y'all think about Infinity War? And by what did y'all think, I'm going first. And so, so this is S tier for me as well. I really like Infinity War. There's a lot of my favorite like get hype moments from Phase 3 are in Infinity War. And as someone who's given 3 S's in a row here, like I think there's a whole lot that was going on in this end of 2017 going into 2018. That
we're just over here giving out S tiers like candy.
Yeah. Well, y'all don't agree with me on the D tiers, so I have to balance the other way.
Hey, I've agreed on you on the D tier. Well, no,
and so, yeah, like I love the forging of Stormbreaker, and then of course when Thor, Groot, and Rocket show up in the fight, there's a lot of really cool character moments. We also get to see a lot of the characters like Scarlet Witch and Okoye team up as well, and as Black Widow. And so, yeah, S tier for me. Shanine, what do you think?
So many tiers, which is like an automatic S tier for
There's
me.
only 5 tiers. We only got 5, Shanine. There's S, A, B, C.
Do not mock my pain.
Do not mock my pain.
No.
He's mocking
Just-
your pain, Shanine.
I
100%.
know. Avengers, amazing. Scarlet Witch and Viz, and we're okay. And
They were doing so well.
Peter Parker, and crying, and S tier. That's all.
Shanine doesn't feel so good, so we're gonna go over to Emma. How are you doing?
It's another S tier. The pain this movie left me in. I went home and sobbed, and I was like, Mom, you don't understand. This has been my life for the past 5 years, and they're all gone. That doesn't happen a lot. That happens in animal movies, and this is the furthest thing from an animal movie on the planet. I sobbed, and it was like, not ready. Such good team ups, such a good build up to ending in the worst possible way. And then we had to sit there and wait for another 2 years or however long. 2 years-ish, roughly. And team ups were great. The story building was great. With Iron Man and Doctor Strange, of like, there's one outcome. And it just did a good job of really building up the anticipation of, well, we're all screwed, and actually ending with, we're all screwed. Now what? So.
Chris?
Just to be contrarian, D tier. No. No, I can't disagree with any of that. This is just part one of everything we've been waiting for up until this point. So, I mean, it can't be anything but S tier. Like, if to be even remotely involved in the MCU, this is a must watch. You have to watch this one, and you have to watch the next one.
Spoilers.
Yeah. They set everything up and everything going from this. There's so many good things, so many good moments. They balanced it well amongst the characters. Also, was one of my favorite things is the pacing and everything in this movie is just the best.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna use my veto to SS tier it.
SS Omega
Triple S
S.
tier it, yeah.
Omega.
That brings us to Ant-Man and the Wasp, released in the tail end of 2018. We get the introduction of Hope Van Dyne's Wasp. We get it teased at the end of the last movie, and then
I was gonna say we met her in the last.
Yeah, we
movie,
met her in the
Cameron.
last one, but we actually see her as Wasp in this one. And so,
did you not see the first one?
I had. And I can remember. I'm just kidding. But we also get the introduction of Ghost, I think is her name, and who's like phasing in and out of space. And so, Shanine, what do you think of this one?
I quite enjoyed this one. I can't remember a lot of specifics. I remember enjoying it. I did like it enough to write a blog post about it. And so, I don't know, it was good. It had some good themes and, I mean, just more Ant-Man stuff. We like Paul Rudd.
Who hasn't aged a day in
The immortal
the
Paul
past
Rudd.
50 years or whatever.
So what tier did you say? Sorry, did I miss something?
I didn't yet.
Oh, okay. I was like,
She's still puzzling.
She's
like, is that it? Did you
she's
say a
holding
tier
back
in there?
for
Did I miss
anticipation.
something?
Great use
No.
of tension there.
Okay.
Keep it going.
Low A for me.
Emma, what do you think?
I think an A as well. I like the fact that it starts with him on house arrest and he gets, you know, dinged or whatever because the 1 foot crosses the boundary on accident. And that made me laugh and it carried out across a good with the first movie, they knew it was a stupid superhero concept and they went along with it. They did a good job of carrying that across the second one, but not as well, if that makes sense. I would rather watch the first one over again, but this one wasn't terrible. So it's a good A.
Chris?
And for me, I can't quite put it at an A tier. It is a solid B though. Has one of the best openings. Though I will say that it's kind of a mundane opening, but it's just so fun. We get to see Agent Wu, and so many good things just happen at the beginning, setting up for it as he's coming out of house arrest. But yeah, it's the overall plot is fine, I guess. It's more of a development of the sub characters. Obviously, we see Hope come into her own, which is great. But yeah, it's a B.
For me, this is a C. This is another movie for me that I feel like I enjoyed bits and pieces of, and those bits and pieces are going to be in the highlight reel. I would not necessarily be upset to watch this again, but it's just one that like I've never really had that desire to go back and rewatch. I hope as Jonathan says in the chat, I really hope that this is the type of movie that we can look back on later and be like, oh, it's really cool they set up this thing. I find Ghost was a very interesting villain that they just kind of didn't do much with.
That's kind of the villain theme in MCU, though, isn't it?
Well, not in this phase. And so, yeah, I do like again that that it was a villain that isn't just straight evil, like she has an objective, but but again, I feel like a lot of the beats here are very similar to the first movie, and so if I had to choose, I would go watch the first movie again.
Yep. If we got more Agent Wu time, might be a little higher for me, but.
Okay. I feel like this might be the one, everyone. We have Captain Marvel set in 1990s. We get the introduction of Brie Larson's character. She is an Earthling who has essentially been kidnapped by the Kree and is being used as part of their galactic war against the Skrulls. We get to see Ronan back from Guardians of the Galaxy. Or I guess we see pre-Ronan from...
Ronan.
But and then we get to see a younger Sammy J, and who will eventually get the idea for the Avengers Initiative. So, Emma, what do you got?
I was so excited for this movie when it was coming out for one very apparent reason, in that it was the first female hero movie that we were getting in the MCU. Finally, at the very end of Phase 3. Took them way too long. And it kind of just fizzled for me. Like, it wasn't... It lands at a low B. Like, I had so much hope for it, but it wasn't quite giving everything it needed to, given that it was holding that position in the MCU as the first title female character, and it didn't give everything it needed to fly. So I mean, it had a great casting. You get the cat who scratches
The Flurkin.
Samuel Flurry. Thank you.
The Flurkin.
The Flurkin, the not cat who scratches Flurry, and then that's how he gets his eye patch, and that was great. And then you have like some cool fights and things, and a strong, independent young woman, which is great. But it could have been built up so much more and given so much more power, but it didn't. And then we didn't really see much of Captain Marvel after that, so.
Until the next movie.
I mean, even in that movie.
Yeah,
she has like 2 scenes in the next movie, She's like, sorry, I couldn't be here. I was out watching other planets.
Yeah.
Wah wah. Low B.
Chris, what do you think?
I'll give it a solid B. It was a fun movie, which isn't necessarily as much as I wanted from the Captain Marvel movie. So it is a solid B. They did a great job. It was a lot of fun seeing Fury and Coulson early on in the 90s. And there's just some great time references. The Flurkin is great.
The blockbuster.
The blockbuster, yes. And but yeah, it's solid. I enjoy it. Is it a must watch? Not quite there yet, but solid. All in all.
For me, I think that one of the places that Captain Marvel struggles is it's the story of, hey, you need to not show your emotions. But when this movie is at its best, they're just letting Brie just be whatever she wants to be. And I think that those moments are way too few for the movie. But whenever we do get to see her be a bit more goofy, I think is very much when this movie is at its best. Mm-hmm. I do think that this movie, especially for the beginning, takes itself a bit too seriously. A bit being a bit of an exaggeration or an understatement. And so I would definitely have liked them to have branched out a bit more with that going, again, just kind of leaning more into Brie's role. I like, again, once we get to see her go Super Saiyan and we get to see her finally break out of the control of the big computer thing, whatever that was called. I really liked that we get to see her just go a bit more ballistic, and that
the supreme intelligence.
Yeah. Thank you. And so I
do
like that.
2 just random words together. Just
yes.
Why did he? What was it? Whatever the big.
Yeah. So for me, this is a B. Again, I definitely agree. I like where this leaves Captain Marvel. I just wish it didn't take us as long to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Shanine's eyebrows are up.
Yeah, I have never heard of a bigger Captain Marvel fan than the Hoot and Howl herself, Shanine. So I'm ready for that S tier. What do you got for us?
All right. So my apologies to Scott Higa. D tier. This movie has made me furious in ways that very few movies have. Where to even begin? It made me hate Brie Larson. I do not dislike her as a person or as an actress, but this movie was terrible. Captain Marvel was an incredibly boring and unrelatable character who had 0 character growth and just was uninteresting to watch. Apparently she was having trouble controlling her emotions that she also never had. So I was confused by that. And like to be building up the whole MCU that Nick Fury like doesn't want to talk about his eye patch, and it's a freaking space cat. Are you kidding me? No.
I mean, don't forget that same space cat ate some things.
No. It was not okay. That was not the like deep-seated trauma that Nick Fury was hiding this whole time. Was a little scratch from a cat. Unbelievable. I'm like fairly new to the comics and things, but the one thing that I did know from the comics was the scroll. And this was like my first experience of watching an MCU movie and being like, wait, what is happening right now? This is not what is in the comics. And it was upsetting to know that they are villains in the comics and to see them not that way on screen.
I kind of liked that about it, though.
Nope.
In terms of the scroll.
Like... Nope. Could have introduced them first as villains and then had like a redemption later with one of them or something. But no, I don't like changing the whole concept of who they are. And also just this movie, my biggest complaint about it is that it didn't feel like it was trying to tell a story. It was just pushing an agenda the entire time. It focused way more on what it wanted to say than telling a good story. And what it was trying to say wasn't even good. It felt like fake feminism that had its own very specific definition of what a woman can be and wasn't actually in real support of women. So I D tier.
Okay. So I think that averages out to still a B.
Veto.
Down to C.
Okay. I'll veto it back up.
Cameron, I'm going to veto your veto because I actually agree with some of the things that Shanine says.
So, this is the one I anticipated this happening on. So,
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I completely get everywhere you're coming from on that, Shanine. As Chris mentioned with the scrolls, I did like this twist. I thought that this was, like, again, as someone that doesn't know a ton about the comics, I did love this twist that the scrolls were actually like the good guys here. And then
I like the utilization like later on too.
And then I actually I really liked the twist about the eye, because I liked it. I liked that it at least retconned, but presented Fury as this person that has had this plan for years, where he knew he would need the fake eye to log in during Winter Soldier, and so he had planned like this contingency for decades. And so again, that's like a retcon, but I did really like this idea that that this was played up on his part so that people would not suspect this. And so we even see it in the final scene where Coulson brings him the fake eyes. So I liked that juke.
Yeah, I like that it, like, they did these things that flew in complete opposition of what people who were following the comics and things knew, and kind of just turned them. Because, yeah, like, I especially just like what they do with the scroll later on, but I don't feel as passionately as Shanine, so I'm not going to utilize my veto to veto any vetoes.
We're not using all of our vetoes right here.
I mean, I could, because I feel like we're not going to be using, like, I'm not going to have the opportunity to use it for the next film. So
okay. Thanos will return. Brings us into 2019 with the introduction. I say introduction with our second Avengers film with Avengers Endgame. Thanos has successfully wiped out half the universe, and it's up to the Avengers to get the world's the world, the universe, all of that back to some semblance of normal. And so we get time travel, we get shenanigans, and we also get Fat Thor. So, or Dad Bod Thor.
Dad
So.
bod. Heck yeah.
Chris, what do you think of Avengers Endgame?
D tier. No. Like, it's so obvious. It's just an S tier. You have to do Infinity War into Endgame. Like,
So necessary.
if they failed at either of those, honestly, Infinity War would probably, in my brain, would be less if they didn't nail Endgame as well. There's just a lot happening. I think it's just a solid conclusion that everything builds up to, and and the best part that they do well is there are still consequences to everything that previously happened. Like I was worried that with potential time travel things, shenanigans, that there wouldn't be, like, there'd just be a reset. And then it's like, what's the point of everything we just went through for the last 2 years? But I think they definitely put stakes in that made you feel like everything happened still. Yeah, it was great.
For me, I very much agree with everything you said. I think one of the most interesting cinematic experiences for me was walking out of the theater after Infinity War, because no one was excited. Like it was like that hurt so bad, as Janine was talking about earlier. And then here we obviously knew something had to happen. Like, we knew that that Spider-Man was coming back in the next movie. Obviously it could have been a prequel, but that seemed a bit off. We knew that there was Black Panther 2 coming up. So, like, we did know enough to know that these characters had to be brought back. And I think the biggest question was, how do you do that without erasing that hurt? And I really loved how they handled that. I loved the time jump that we have now basically set the MCU. I think it's in 2024 after this. And so I like that gave the world a lot of time to grieve. And I liked that undoing the snap doesn't just undo all that pain. We get to see that more and more in later films, or the later phase, or the next phase. There we go. And I really liked that the win also wasn't free. We do still have deaths that mattered, obviously with Loki at the beginning of Infinity War, and then with Black Widow and Iron Man in this one. This is such an awesome S tier. A while ago, sorry, I have a lot to say about this one. And so after the Snyder Cut came out, we watched that, and then went back and watched Infinity War and Endgame. And I cannot believe how amazing the pacing is of these two films. Like, they squeeze so much into the 3-hour runtime, but like they don't feel 3 hour. Like, there's so many cool character moments. There's so much awesome stuff going on. Yeah, awesome. S tier. Carve out your day and watch it in Infinity War back to back.
Yeah.
Janine.
Yeah, I mean, the culmination of the Infinity Saga, it's an S tier. More crying. My only complaint is Captain Marvel had to show up and thought she saved the day, but whatever.
Not bitter.
Not at all. We got epic Cap and Mjolnir moments.
Jonathan?
It's so good. So good.
Emma?
S tier. I mean, where else does it live except at the very top? Because another great paced, definitely like it's the, it equals Infinity War in the energy that was set up like from Infinity War and comes to that conclusion of everything that the MCU had been setting up for up to that point. And it felt like a very solid end. Like I saw it twice. Again, cried both times. And like you said, Cameron, it wasn't without its official losses. Like we officially lost people in the sense that those people are never coming back. Like they may show up in old recordings or whatever in future movies, but they're not. Those characters will never be returning. Iron Man, Black Widow. Obviously, we had the Black Widow movie later on, but that is pre all of this in terms of those events and everything. It just has, I mean, it knew that everything leading up to it had a huge cultural impact in the real world, and when they made it, they knew that they had to do that impact justice, and they did. Like you see at the end, you have not just the actors' names typed out, but it's their signatures. Like they knew the cultural impact they'd had, and that drove them to put every little bit of heart and soul into the movie, and they did. And that shows.
Okay. With Avengers Endgame's climax of the Infinity Saga, we then get the epilogue following action of Spider-Man Far From Home, closing out this phase. We get Peter, who's very tired after all the things that he has been through, and he just wants to go on a trip with his crew and his school to Europe. And so they end up going. Of course, things don't go great. And we get Mysterio that comes in, tells everyone he's from another multiverse. Got him. All this to get Peter to give him his glasses that Tony left, and somehow controls a whole bunch of drones. And so I'll go first for this one. This is a B for me. This is a high B. I really enjoy this movie, but I don't think it has as many moments that give me chills in the same way that that Vulture does in Homecoming. Like I really like Mysterio. I love how they handled him. I just don't think he like subverts expectations. Like the expectation was that he was going to be the bad guy, that he was going to betray Spider-Man. And so I think the fact that we can see that coming kind of makes it so, again, there's not as much menacing there. And so I also wasn't huge on the elementals thing. That's one of those that I do like the idea of Mysterio using special effects, but I wasn't huge on the implementation of the elementals. But yeah, so high B for me. Shanine?
I mean, it's more Spider-Man. We love it. It's in
I like
England.
I love how Shanine reviews Captain America and Spider-Man movies.
That's all she reviews, guys. Nothing else.
It's more Spider-Man. It's Captain America.
I mean, it's
That's
true.
It's automatic S tier for Shadeen just because it's Spider-Man and Captain America. Come on, guys.
We
know this by
them
now.
all S tier. But it is in England, and I always love seeing movies like that because then I can point out like I've been there, and it's always fun. And I think probably the biggest thing about this one was just seeing J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson once again. That was such a shock in the best way. It's an A.
Emma?
Admittedly, this one for me falls at a C, because I did I did not feel very impressed by it in the grand scheme of things. It did, I feel, fall flat in Mysterio. You know, we've seen that sort of story arc enough times of like the bad guy presents himself as, being, an ally to the main character, and then turns around and stabs him in the back, or, whatever. And it just didn't work for me in this movie, and it, I feel, took away from the whole story, especially since it's that moment of, Peter and the rest of them trying to figure out what's going to happen with college. It's like the start of that up peak on top of losing Tony. And, it's this huge shift for them in life. It just fell flat. So for me, it just sits at a C. And I wasn't impressed with like you said, Cameron, the elementals being a part of what whatever his name is was trying to do, and it just didn't. The one thing I liked about it was like the last third or whatever, or very end, when he announces to the world that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, because that's then like oh no, you thought you won but you didn't really. So
Chris, bring us home.
So, yeah, I'll give it a B here. Yeah, like the way he just I just have certain gripes. So yeah, like I didn't care for seeing the betrayal coming. I wish they would have held back at least a little longer on that pace in this movie. Just because, like, when we first meet Quentin Beck, I'm like, ooh, because like immediately you're just thinking, oh, we're doing the multiverse thing now, like after Endgame. It's like, okay, this opens up so many possibilities, but then they close it out so early that you're just like, oh, okay, never mind. But I understand he's been manipulated. It just didn't feel like when he, like, in that moment where he gives over the glasses, it didn't feel like a Peter Parker thing to me. Even like after everything, it just felt like even like from where he was at the beginning of the movie, like he would have wanted to further hold on to the glasses, just to hold on to something that was Tony's. And, figured out like another way to provide the resources that Quentin Beck made of, like, being manipulated, may have needed to do the good that he was proposing to do. And that's just, but there's some great moments in this movie though. With him traveling and happy and everything. There's so many good things though. So I think it's a solid B, borderline A for me.
I really like what Avoided Ice said in chat of making dumb decisions because you just want to breathe without responsibility. I really like how with the glasses, they handle that as like, man, Peter just wants to be a kid. Like, he has so much going on, and then Tony and his infinite wisdom leaves this like 17-year-old with a swarm of attack drones and all of this kind of stuff. And
should have just put them away though, but don't give them away.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not typically a fan of the like character made bad decisions so that the movie can happen, or as we talk about in our previous book club on Secret Identity by Alex Segura. I'm not a huge fan of the like, why does the character act this way? Because of plot. But I do really like how they kind of tie that in with what he's been through. It's a bit more forgiving there compared to in a lot of other films. IMO. So that's going to bring us into our final questions. Of course, chat, play along as well as you have been doing. If you had to watch one movie from this phase right now, emphasis on the number one movie from this phase right now, what would it be? For me, it's always Ragnarok.
Yes.
And so, Shanine, what do you think?
I mean, for me right now, I feel like it's Ragnarok because I really have to rewatch that.
Yeah, if you've only seen it once, you're slacking, Shanine.
I know.
Yeah, Ragnarok is like my comfort movie. Like it is very much the like rainy Saturday, put on Ragnarok. Too hot to go outside Saturday, put on Ragnarok.
There's some really good cameos in it too, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so my answer is obviously Ragnarok too. Just throwing it out there.
Across the board, everyone's watching Ragnarok.
We're all in agreement.
Just in general of the MCU, Ragnarok is definitely one of the most rewatchable in general, in my opinion.
Okay. Next question. Favorite villain from this phase? And if your pick is Thanos, pick someone else as well. So I feel like we've built up Thanos through all of these. Like, let's look at our, I guess maybe in a way that we ask that question then is like, what's your favorite one movie villain? We'll say. Shanine, starting with you.
Thanos. I don't know. Come back to me.
Okay.
I don't know.
Emma.
Jeez.
In chat, avoided I says Captain America, and let me tell you why.
Why'd you have to take mine? Damn it!
I mean, I kind of have to agree with that one. But
Captain America was the villain in his own movie.
See, here's me leaning towards Tony.
I mean, I'm gonna have to go with avoided ice on that one. Because I am and always will be Team Iron Man. So.
Either way, it was still two white guys arguing over the fate of all the heroes. So, I mean.
In the grand scheme of things.
Very American.
Very American.
So that was going to be my joke. It wasn't going to be like my actual, but I really do like Hela. I felt like they told her story throughout that to provide her kind of background. And I really just thought she was compelling in a sense. That she was created. She is who she was raised to be. And then it's like, then your parents are like, oops. And she got shafted, unfortunately. But, yeah. Even though she isn't the biggest part of Ragnarok, ultimately, in the end, with everything that does ultimately happen in that movie. But, yeah.
For me, I'm like super torn. I very much agree with everything that you said about Hela. But I think for me, it's Michael Keaton's Vulture. Again, I love how much that ties in. Again, it makes that the character drama of it being Peter Parker's villain, or as the dad of the girl he's taking to homecoming being the villain, as well as then Vulture being Spider-Man's villain. I just love that. Michael Keaton also plays this role so well.
I also did like it that, you know, with his first movie, it's going from these big stakes that we've been seeing through the MCU coming down to a little smaller and just a little more local, but still kind of big implications. I did like that about the first Spider-Man movie.
Janine, have you come to a decision?
Right. Yes, I have landed on Vulture as well. Yeah, just for that one scene where you think you're getting a dad talking to his daughter's date, and then it gets so much more chilling than that. And yeah, it's great.
Talk to all of your daughter's dates as if you're the villain.
Yeah. And
How to dad.
How to dad. In chat, Zin
101.
Plays says Killmonger as their choice. So, and then the final question that I have for you. Oh, not final. We have two more. How would you rate this phase on our scale? And so, for me, this is S tier. I think that when a lot of people talk about their gripes with the stuff of like quality of phase 4, it's because phase 3 slaps. And so, and Chris made fun of me for hanging out S's like candy, but like there's so many things in this phase that are like my go-to MCU movies.
It's one of the strongest phases of the 4 that are now out. I would say right now it's the strongest phase.
I mean, to give it credit, the reason why it's the strongest phase is there's 3 phases, or like there's, you know,
2 phases leading up to it,
building into this one phase.
Yes. That may change in like 10 years time. Like, who knows what happens in the next 10 years? Hire me, Marvel, please.
Hire her, Marvel, please.
Actually, Disney, please sell Marvel to someone else because you're too big.
That too. I'm looking at you, Mr. Kevin. I went to the same school that you went to.
Anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, S tier, with one caveat, but overall S tier.
There's a point. It isn't an average. It's a how do you feel? Chris, what did you think? Or did you say yours already?
I haven't said mine yet.
Okay.
A tier. No, like as I mentioned, it's S tier. Like everything was leading up into those 2 movies, and they nailed it. And those 2 movies, even if everything else was kind of meh, would carry this thing into S tier. It's like, yeah.
In chat, Zimplay says A because of Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then Avoided Ass says average excludes outliers anyway. So,
yep.
So even if it wasn't average,
rocking that bell curve.
you're.
And so, and then, what is a big theme, moment, overarching like meta thing that stands out to you about this phase?
Found family.
What do you mean?
Finding friends / like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Mentor types in unexpected places. Like, you have Spider-Man and Tony. That is not a pairing that I would have like stuck together. But it happened and it fit so well that it was such like a mentor, mentee, almost like father-son relationship that really fit. And then you've got these, like, obviously you have civil war, but then that whole thing turns around and they end up with Endgame, where it's like they're all back on the same team after, punching their anger out on each other.
Mhm. Chris, what do you think?
In a battle of ideologies, the one that builds hope prevails.
For me, I just can't believe how much they nailed this. Like, this is kind of what Chris was just saying, but there was so much pressure on this final film, and I cannot, or like these final films, and I cannot believe how much they nailed Infinity War and Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Because they could have done bad things with Endgame, with how coming out of like the resolution of Infinity Wars. They could have messed that up hard, but they didn't. Yeah, I agree.
Shani?
For me, it's crying.
Tears, sadness.
Sadness,
Yes.
joy, anger.
All of the
Janine
emotions.
just cried throughout the entire phase.
Just the entire human experience in an
A
MCU
lesson in
phase.
emotions for adults.
Oh, Spider-Man's on screen. Oh, Captain America's on screen. Tears.
All of the crying, all of the time, all of the places.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, like Cameron said, they nailed it. It was the culmination of the Infinity Saga, and so good. They did it.
In chat, Avoided Ice says personal struggle, whether with identity, responsibility, morality, etc. And then normally at this point, I have y'all, we guess box office, but I just want to call out, man, Avengers Endgame sitting at $2.8 billion. So we're going to just let that be that for.
Yeah, I don't think
For
there's
this
anything
phase.
coming from it.
So, but with that, that's going to bring us to the end of episode 215 of First Geek 411. It has been a pleasure chatting phase 3 with everyone. We will be back hopefully next week with phase 4, talking through the Disney Plus series as well as the movies, adding those to our tier lists. So before we get to our actual outro announcements, anybody planning to stream this week?
Unless people want to watch me pack for camping.
Still figuring out my life. Hopefully we will be back soon. Stay tuned.
I work Thursday. I may stream that evening because I get off at 4. So maybe.
Avoided Eye says ASMR stream. And so then our next book club is going to be on August 25th. We are doing Spider-Man Social Dilemma by Preeti Chibber. And so shout out to that. I hear good things about Spider-Man. And so I made that
Yeah.
joke during the last book club. I'm making it here again. Might just catch on.
I have
And
this
so-
friend who raves about him all the time, and can't stop talking about the Spider-Man guy. So I guess I'll check him out.
It's more Spider-Man, so.
But yeah, we are First Geek 411. Thank you everyone who has hung out in chat with us this week. Thank you everyone watching over on YouTube. You can find us as One Geek 411 on our social media. You can join our Discord server if you want to chat and hang out. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com and check out our Redbubble store. watch live on Twitch, 6:45 Mountain Time on Monday nights, and then find our videos on YouTube where you can like, comment, and subscribe. And then if you want to find us personally, you can do that at our personal social media. Mine is Himar Whittle.
I am not prepared with an eye.
I'm the Hoot and Howl on Twitter and Hoot and Howl Tales, TALES on Instagram.
And I'm not so foreign.
It's been a great week.
Wash
Drink some water.
your hands.
Read a book.
I love you.